The War Council of the Crimson Dominion had been in session for 3 standard hours when the massive doors to the strategic chamber exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris walked a figure that made every general, admiral, and warlord in the room reach for their weapons. A human, female, alone. In her right hand, she carried something that made the blood freeze in the veins of every assembled military leader. The unmistakable head of Supreme Overlord Vrakthul, the Undying, his 6 eyes now permanently closed, his crown of neural spikes dim and lifeless. General Morgark, Supreme Commander of the Dominion's ground forces, was the first to recover from the shock. His massive frame rose from the tactical holotable, 4 arms reaching for the ceremonial weapons that had never been drawn in this sacred chamber. "Impossible," he rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. The Supreme Overlord was in the Fortress of Eternal Victory, surrounded by 10,000 elite guards, protected by energy shields that could withstand nuclear bombardment. The human woman stepped into the chamber fully, letting the doors seal behind her with a soft hiss. She was wearing what appeared to be standard Terran military fatigues, though they were torn and blood-stained. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked tired. She said simply, setting the severed head on the polished surface of the War Council table. Past tense. Fleet Admiral Zephyr, whose tentacled species had never known defeat in space combat, studied the human with all 18 of his sensory organs. "You are either the most skilled infiltrator in galactic history, or you are delivering a very sophisticated fake." The human reached into her jacket and produced a small device. When activated, it projected a holographic recording that made every alien in the room step backward. The footage showed the Fortress of Eternal Victory's main throne room. Vrakthul, the Undying, sat upon his crystal throne, exactly as they had seen him just days before during their last strategic meeting. Around him stood his personal guard, the Immortal Legion, warrior priests who had never lost a single battle in 3,000 years of conquest. Then the explosions began. The recording showed the human woman emerging from what appeared to be a ventilation grate directly above the throne. She dropped into the middle of the Immortal Legion with nothing but a combat knife and what looked like improvised explosives. What followed was 17 minutes of violence that redefined every alien's understanding of what humans were capable of. She fought through the entire Legion, whispered Intelligence Director XL Noth, his compound eyes reflecting the horror of the hologram. Alone, with primitive weapons. The recording showed the human using the chamber's own architecture against the guards, turning their superior numbers into a disadvantage in the confined space. She was fast, impossibly fast, but more than that, she was adaptive. Every time the guards changed tactics, she changed with them. "How many guards were stationed at the fortress?" asked Admiral Zephyr, though his voice suggested he didn't want to know the answer. 10,437, the human replied without consulting any notes. "I counted." The hologram reached its climax as the woman finally faced Vrakthul himself. The Supreme Overlord was no ceremonial leader. He was a warrior who had personally conquered 47 star systems. His natural armor could deflect plasma fire. His strength could crush titanium. The fight lasted less than 3 minutes. "Impossible," General Morgark repeated, but his voice now carried a note of something that hadn't been heard in this chamber for millennia: fear. The human deactivated the recording. "Your Supreme Overlord made a mistake. He thought killing my daughter would break human morale. Instead, it just made things personal." Defense Minister Korthol, whose species prided themselves on their analytical capabilities, ran rapid calculations. Even if the recordings are authentic, one human cannot threaten the entire Dominion. "We have millions of ships, billions of soldiers." The human woman smiled, and somehow that expression was more terrifying than any weapon she could have drawn. "You're right. One human can't threaten your entire empire. She reached into her other pocket and produced a small communication device. But I'm not just one human anymore. The device activated, and suddenly the chamber filled with voices, hundreds of them, all human, all reporting in from across Dominion space. Fortress Beta 7 is down. All command staff eliminated. Supply depot on Kepler 9 destroyed. No survivors. Admiral Jex Moore's flagship has been boarded. Admiral is dead. The reports continued for nearly 10 minutes. Shipyards destroyed, command centers eliminated, supply lines severed. The surgical strikes were happening simultaneously across dozens of star systems. You see, the human woman said as the last report ended, "Humans have this thing about family. Kill one of ours, and you're not fighting one angry human. You're fighting all of us. And we don't fight like your armies. We don't line up in neat formations or follow predictable strategies." She picked up Vraxthal's head by one of his neural spikes. "We hunt. And when humans hunt something that hurt our family, we don't stop until it's extinct." General Morgak's 4 hands trembled as he reached for his ceremonial sword. You're declaring war on the entire Dominion?" The human woman turned toward the door, then paused. "War? No, General. War implies you have a chance to win. What's happening to your empire isn't war." She walked through the destroyed doorway, her voice echoing back from the corridor. "It's extermination. And we've only just begun." As the doors sealed behind her, the assembled military leaders of the Crimson Dominion sat in stunned silence, staring at the severed head of their supposedly immortal overlord. For the first time in their species' history, they began to understand what it meant to be prey.